Okay, so last week we spent some time talking about how, right, we talked about El Melech Ne'eman, right? How you start off the Shema with the words El Melech Ne'eman when you're praying by yourself, and that's an acronym for Amen, right? Right, the God who is, right? Did we talk about that?
Yes.
Yeah, God trustworthy King, right? And then we talked about, right, how Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad, right? How God is, right? It's Adonai Eloheinu. It's God is one. And we talked about that if we were to write it, we would write Shema Yisrael Adonai Echad. Right here is so God is one, right? So we said that it's Adonai Eloheinu Adonai, right? That really that it's Adonai is God of mercy and Eloheinu is God of justice, right? So you have, right, hero is your God who is, right, mercy, Eloheinu, God of justice, seemingly a conflict. It's Adonai Echad, it's the one and only God, right? And which God is it? It's the God of mercy.
Mercy.
Okay? Right? Adonai Echad, it's not Eloheinu Echad, right? And so, and we said that, and we talked about how that really idolatry really comes from this conflict, right? All idolatry, all different gods in the world come from the struggle that man has, that if God is loving and caring, then how could there be bad things happening in the world? And basically what they talk about is, basically what they talk about, okay, so now I'm gonna now switch to,
You're on your computer.
I'm gonna switch to computer, okay? But meanwhile, the driver called me, hold on one second. Hello? Okay.
Rabbi, you have to unmute.
Yeah. But so whatever we figured out, all the boys. So take the 5 boys, and if you could take some of the luggage. Oh, he said he couldn't find the luggage, so just go and have a safe trip. All right. Okay. Thank you so much. Yashakov. Bye bye. Bye bye. Okay, the boys are on their way. All right. Life is good. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your prayers. All righty. So we said that really the whole struggle between trying to figure out, is God merciful, is God justice, right? And how do bad things happen to good people? How do good things happen to, right, to bad people, right? And just struggling with this concept of, God a good, God bad. And so that sort of is once you have two gods, and say, okay, well, the simple answer is there are two gods. There's a good God, a bad God. They fight. Sometimes one wins, sometimes the other one wins. And then once you have two gods, then you start making gods for all sorts of other things. And that's where idolatry that's how it creeps into, idolatry creeps into the world. This is where it started from this concept. And really it's a mistaken concept. It's funny, actually. I went there and I had a student that said, Rabbi, why is there corona in the world? I said, I don't know. I said, it's a good question. I said, you kind of figure out. I said, why do you think it is? He said, well, is God in charge or is God not in charge? I said, well, God is in charge, right? God is in charge of everything. So he goes, well, if God, I think he's doing a bad job. So I said, oh, okay. So I said, so you think that God is doing a bad job? I said, thank you for sharing your opinion with me. I said, if I have to bet on you or on God, you know where my money's going. Right? I said, don't think you're smarter than God. I said, understand. I said, you're not smarter than God. I said, your job in this world is to try to figure out what God wants from us rather than telling God he's doing a bad job. Right? That's right. And that kind of is right. And that really is, right, is really what we try to understand. We try to say, right, what does God want from me? Because ultimately the only thing we control is we control ourselves. Right? That's the only thing that we control. And our job in this world is to make the right choices. And we even choose to make the right choices. Because what happens or what doesn't happen, right, in this world, right, is totally up to God. We don't control results. We only control effort. And we have to make sure that the effort that we're putting in is the right effort. Okay, that that we put the effort in and we try to do the right thing, but ultimately God is the one who is in control, right? So ultimately our job in this world is to learn, right, how God controls the world, and we have to make the right decision. And that's where you get Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, God of mercy, God of justice, which is the age-old question of how do these two ideas work out? And it's Adonai Echad, right? It's actually interesting because on Friday night, right, in the Friday night service, in the Kabbalat Shabbat service, it's actually the first time I say it, I chuckle. It comes from Psalm 92. Are you familiar with Psalm 92? Right. So it says like this. How great are your deeds, Adonai? Exceedingly profound are your thoughts. A boor cannot know, nor can a fool understand this. When the wicked bloom like grass, and all the doers of iniquity blossom. Right? How do good things happen to bad people? So it says it is to destroy them till eternity. Right? That God is giving them the reward in this world. That's why these good things are happening. Because when it comes to the world to come, right, they're going to go ahead. They're going to be destroyed. Right? They're going to be right. They're forfeiting their share in the world to come. Is what's taking place. But I always think of this Psalm 92. And it's always right. I always think that's a really it's a good lesson. Right, it's a good lesson of being. Don't think there's not a ruler of the world who runs the world based. And by the way, it's very interesting. It's based on his rules, which you should understand. Ultimately, it all comes from a place of mercy. Okay, it's all kindness. Okay, the entire world is created is only solely sourced in kindness. Okay, everything that happens in the world is a kindness that takes place. Alrighty, and God has created such an incredible system, right? And just how the world works. Really, the only people messing it up are humans. Right? Is that we go ahead. Is that we go ahead and we act in an unkind way or in a not nice way, right? But ultimately, our job is to go ahead is to be right is to go ahead and to be totally kind, right? Is to right the driver of what we have is just kindness, right? Right? We all understand that, right? That the whole world is just a place of kindness, and that's what we need to strive to do, is to emulate God and to do kindness in this world. Okay, cool. Alrighty. So now we have, so back to the Shema, right? So it's very interesting. What's the first word when we say the Shema? Is Shema, right? What does the word Shema mean?
Hear or listen.
Hear or listen, okay. What's the difference between hearing and listening?
Listening is paying attention. Hearing
Right.
is just, the sound goes in, doesn't necessarily mean it registers.
Right. Right, so very good. So it says, listen, it says Shema Yisrael. Listen. Don't just hear, but listen. Bring it down to our hearts, right? Shema, hear the words, get our heads and our hearts in line, right? It's not just, right? It's not just hear Israel, right? We don't need you hearing the words. We need you listening, right? We need you going ahead and we need you going ahead right, listening exactly what's happening, right? That really is our job, right? Is to hear, right? Is to hear, O Israel, right? Make sure we go ahead and we get, right? We bring the message down to our heart, right? So Shema Yisrael, Adonai, God of mercy, Eloheinu, God of justice, in conflict. Adonai Echad is the one and only God. Right?
It's certainly in keeping what we read in Talmud too, because everything is Tashma.
Right. Very good. Right. At least in the Babylonian Talmud, right? It's Tashma. In the Jerusalem Talmud, it's Tachazi. Right? Come and see. Right? Which is a higher level. Right? In the Babylonian Talmud, it's Tashma. Come and listen. right? Listen, right? Shema, listen, right? Listen what your mouth says, bring it into your heart. Okay, now, another thing about the Shema, if you ever notice when you look at the Shema, what's unique about the first line? Anyone look at the...
It's got two large letters.
Oh, very good. It has two
First,
large
at the
letters.
end, it's got an aleph and a dalet.
An ayin.
An ayin and a dalet.
Okay, you guys, you know, let me see if I can find it online like that, right? But it's right, the last letter of the first word of the word Shema is larger, and the dalet of the echad, right? The dalet of the echad is larger. Okay, right? Now, why are those two letters larger?
It's the word witness.
The word witness,
Witness.
very good, because those two letters together, right? Those two letters together, right, are mean to witness, or aid, a witness, right? Is that what happens is that we're creating, right? Okay, so okay, can I share with you, Judy? Am I able to share? Judy, am I?
Okay, do you want me to click on share screen?
Yeah, or give me the right to share a screen, I guess. I know, Stuart, you
You want us to walk through how to make him a host?
What?
You can, if you make him a host, you can share.
How's that?
Okay, no, okay. Fine, okay, fine. This is your screen?
Yes.
Okay, can I move it or not? Okay. Or if you let me share my screen, I have it in Google. I already put it in.
Okay, so I'll stop share.
Okay, right. Stop share. But if you let me share, when I share, it says you've disabled participant screen sharing. And there's a way for me to share a screen.
I'm sorry, I don't know what to do. Should I go to participant?
Stuart,
Yeah.
Stuart, how did you do it last time?
Share.
I think you go to the top, Judy, and there's a part where it says pass basically control to him.
Oh,
You assign that control to him. So
I
then he's
already
able to
did.
share his screen.
I already did. I
Oh, you
already
already
did.
did. Okay.
thank you.
Able
Okay.
to share.
Fine. Alrighty. So here we are. Okay, so this is the Shema. Okay, these are the words of the Shema. So if you take a look, and I apologize, but you see where my cursor is, right? You see the word Shema. The last letter is an ayin, and then the dalet over here of echad, one, right, which spells aid, a witness, right? Right, that we are testifying that God, right, you are the God of this world, right? Do you see that? The ayin over here and the dalet over here, right? That's aid. That spells witness. Okay, right? That what happens is we go ahead and we are a witness, right? We are testifying that God, you are the God of this world, and even more importantly than being the God of this world, you are my God. Right? It's almost like a pledge of allegiance, right? We're accepting upon ourselves, right, God's sovereignty, right, and God's rule over myself, which is always very important, because that reminder that God is the one who is God is the one who is the ruler of this world, right? That's sort of that and rules over the world, but more importantly, right, almost more important, maybe more, is that he rules over me, that I'm subjugating my will and myself to God, right? And that's why if you take a look, the word echad, right, the word echad right here, right, that I just highlighted, the word echad is one, right? Whose job is to bring God's oneness into this world?
It's our job.
But it's our job, right? It's our job. But who is our?
You and me.
You and me, right? But it's the Jewish people's job, right? It's the Jewish people's job to bring God into this world, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now it's very interesting. The word echad, okay, does anyone know the numerical value of the word echad?
184.
184, so it's
12,
it's 13.
13.
Aleph is 1, Ches is 8, Dalet is 4, right? So that's 13. So what are the 13 of?
Attribute.
Principles of faith.
A good 13 principles of faith, 13 attributes. What else? How many tribes are there?
13.
Yes, it's very interesting.
12
Right?
and a half.
12 and a half, right, very good.
12 of God.
Depends on whether you count Menashe and Ephraim or just
Right, so let's count them. Ruvain, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Zvulun, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Ephraim, Menashe, Benjamin. How many tribes is that?
13.
13.
13, right? We have 13 tribes over here, right? We have 13 tribes. It's interesting. We always refer to them as the 12 tribes, right? And that's why if you take a look, right? Who knows 12 at the end of on Passover, at the end of the Seder? Who knows 12? I know 12. 12 are the tribes of Israel. We always refer to them as 12. But if they're 13 tribes, why do we refer to them as 12?
Because occasionally it's Joseph.
Because when is Joseph used and when is Ephraim and Menashe, his two sons that got their own tribes? When do we use Joseph? When do we use Ephraim and Menashe?
Biblical, the rabbi's blessing, of course, is Ephraim and
Ephraim and Menashe, right? Right.
that's one simplistic notion.
But also the distribution of the land once they
Yeah,
crossed
that's
into
right.
Canaan.
Right. Okay. Right. Right. So they went ahead and they had. Right. They went ahead and they had. 12. Right. The 12 tribes, because the tribe of Levi didn't get a portion. Why did the tribe of Levi get a portion?
Their portion was service to God.
Right. Their job is to serve God, and our job is to support the tribe of Levi. Right. That's our job. Right. Our job is to support them so they could teach us. Right. So what happens is that you go ahead and understand that. So when the tribe of Levi is included among the tribes, then Ephraim and Menashe go back up to Joseph, and Joseph is mentioned. When the tribe of Levi is singled out, is separated, then Joseph gets getting subdivided into Ephraim and Menashe. Okay, so right, so and that's why it camped around the temple and the tabernacle in the desert. You go ahead and you have three tribes, right?
The Levites were surrounding the
And then the Levites were in the inner circle, right? Divided up by family, right? So what happens is, so there's 12 or 13. The word echad, the word one, who's the echad? Who's the one?
God.
So echad, right? God, right, is oneness, right? This oneness of God, which is again in a whole other discussion, right? How God is ultimately all one, right? But the idea is that it also refers to the Jewish people, right? And our job, echad, how do you get that? Because the aleph is the one, which is the tribe of Levi. The ches is the tribe is the children of Leah, and Dalad, the four, is the tribes of Rachel. So you have the word echad, right? The hero Israel, right? God of mercy, God of justice. God of mercy is one. And whose job is it to bring the oneness into this world?
all of the Israelites.
All the Israelites,
Jewish
right?
people.
It's our job. It's our job to bring it in, all the Jewish people. Now, I will show you something kind of pretty cool, right? The word echad, right? The word one, right? Right? The word one. The word one is in numeric value, we said a 13. Does anyone know what other Hebrew word is a numerical value of 13? The word ahava, love, right, is aleph, hey, beis, right? Aleph, hey, beis, hey, right? It's right. So I'll write it out. Okay. Let's see in a second. Right. Right.
Well, it's 2 lines down, it's our hafta.
What?
The hafta is
You have to, very
below
good, right? So you go ahead, you could have here, right? Right here's an aleph. Sorry, going with a mouse is not my thing here, but aleph, hey, beis, hey, right? Ahava, right? It's
1, 5, 2,
right? So it's 1, 5, 2, 5, right? So this is 1, this is 5, 2, this is 5. So it's a total of 13. So love and echad, right? That's really what love is. Love is oneness, right? Right. When you love your spouse, you become one, right? Right. So that's why. So the word echad, the word one, the word ahava are both 13 because this idea, this connection between oneness and love are connected. Okay. Now, what's very interesting is if you go ahead and what happens when you join together oneness and love. What do you get?
Lovely oneness.
Lovely oneness, but you get 26. Right? What else has a numerical value of 26? Tell me if you recognize what I'm drawing now.
The name of God.
The name of God.
Avante.
Right? That's God's name, right? Right? It's a yud, right? It's a yud and a hey and a vav and a hey. I put the hyphen between them just because if you write God's name, you can't erase it. So so try never to write God's name because otherwise it has to be buried, and I hate to bury my computer. Okay, so actually, probably I'd love to bury this computer, but all right, it's a different story. Right, so it's a yud and a hey and a vav and a hey. That spells 26. That's God's name. That's why sometimes Sephardic people like giving charity. Not we Ashkenaz, we usually use 18. Sephardic people use 26. They use multiples of 26. Why 26? Because that's God's name. Right? 26 is God's name. So they use multiple of God's name. Right? That's how they go ahead and that's how they do it. So, but God's name equals oneness and love. When you take oneness and you take love and you combine it together, you get God. And that's really our job is to go ahead. Do you need me to share the screen again? Right, is that you get right, and when here you have the word achad, right? So you have right, you have all this is the oneness gets you to God. Okay, now it happens to be interesting, right? And because let's talk about the oneness for a moment. Okay, right? There's the word achad, right? 1841525. When it comes to the oneness of God, I mean, this is an important idea. Okay, when it comes to the oneness of God, most religions have it that you go ahead and you is that they imagine God as being this white light, and our job is to sort of nullify ourselves to this white light. Right? Okay, that's how most religions go ahead and they view this world. Okay, right? You following? Right? That God is this white light, and our job is to nullify ourselves to this white light. What's the only problem with that?
White light isn't God.
Now the problem is that if you nullify yourself to this white light, then where is the you? Where is your individuality? Right, you understand? Right. Where is your individuality? Right. If we go ahead and we nullify ourselves to a white light, I will show you something. Right. Right. Imagine. Okay. You see, imagine with this canvas, right? And we say, okay, well, we're going to nullify ourselves to this white light. Right, and where is our individuality? But so there's God, but where are we? Right, who are we? Where are we? Like, you hit a problem? So you know what we say? Judaism says, this side of the canvas is white, but if you turn it over, you have a beautiful picture on the other side. Right, and so what we say is, sure, there's this white light of godliness, but each one of us then go ahead and become this extremely beautiful picture. Like you're saying, right, this is right, we go ahead and we get this extremely beautiful picture right on the other side. So it's not just an issue of us going ahead and of us nullifying ourselves to God, but it's bringing what makes me unique and bringing that into the big picture, to becoming, right, that whole picture. Okay, you got that?
The other side of the canvas, if you will.
Right, correct, right, just at the flip side of the canvas, all that white is that there's this gorgeous picture on the other side. Okay, so we have Shema Yisrael, right here, listen, like listen, don't just hear it, but listen. Israel, Adonai, God of mercy, Eloheinu, God of justice, Adonai Echad is the one and only God. Okay, good, we're cool? Okay, and now I'm going to do with you a little something different. Actually, last night, late last night, I went ahead and I went to I went to my son-in-law, okay, and I asked him to I hope he'll let me do this. I went to my son-in-law and I recorded, okay, a tune, two tunes, okay, that I use when like sometimes when I'm saying the Shema, but I use in a way to go ahead and to get my mind focused on the Shema. Okay, can we try something? I want to try something with you all. Alrighty, let's say the Shema together. Okay, the first line. Okay, Shema
Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Right, okay, good. Now, you see, it's interesting. Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan has an idea that he says that really prayer is really the concept of, prayer is really is a concept that's really of meditation, right? It's meant to get us into a state where we're connecting to God on a, not just on a mouth level, right? But bringing it home, right? So what happens is that when we go ahead and there is if sometimes that's where music or a good chazan, right, goes ahead and will be able to what's it called, where a good chazan, right, the job of the chazan is where we need to go ahead and we need and it has to be able to inspire the congregation, right, to help them connect to God. Right? Okay. And then you all hear this?
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu.
You hear it?
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
na 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 Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Shema Yisrael Adonai Echad Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Nai 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 Okay, so that is actually one tune that I sometimes try to use when when I'm saying the Shema, right? Because like when you go ahead and you sort of get like that tuning, you sort of do it with the tune, right? So hopefully what happens is that you go ahead and you are able to get your minds focused, right? You're getting your minds focused to be able to sort of to connect to the divine, right? To connect to God in a totally different way than you would ever connect to Him without it, right? Right. And so it's really something I looked on YouTube. I figured everything on YouTube. But when you type in Shema Yisrael song, it comes up with a million things, including from a lot of Christians and Messianics. So I wasn't able to find it. So I just went ahead and I recorded it with my son-in-law. There's one other tune that's a little shorter, but I don't know. I'm waiting for my computer to download it. But that's a there's another tune for that. But using something like this to go ahead and to sort of to get our minds focused onto being able to connect to God, right? That's something that is really powerful if we could learn to do this, right? It's really, I think I know for me, it helps me when I pray, right? To put tunes, right? To put certain tunes to the words, right? It helps me sort of to connect not only my intellect, not only my mouth, but my heart as well. Okay, so that's one, and I don't know what's happened with this other one because I really would like to share this other tune. There's another tune.
Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Adonai.
Right. Yeah, that's good. It's right, but getting that down, right? Getting that being able to connect is really something that's very powerful. It's something that if we're able to do, right? Right. I encourage people to do that. While I was looking around on YouTube, there's one thing, but it's harder to sing for amateurs. So I didn't I didn't record it, but there was a bar mitzvah boy in Israel that had become blind, and right before that, right before his bar mitzvah, he went ahead and he got his eyesight. He got his eyesight back. Right, and he got his eyesight back, and he's saying at his bar mitzvah. Right, Shema, but I can't. It's a hang on a second. Let me see if are you interested in hearing this?
Is that the one that was popularized a few years ago as a pop song?
I don't know. Hang on a second. Let me see if I could hang on a second. Let me see if I could find it quickly. It was. I mean, you watch it. What's it called? I think this might be it. Here it is. Okay. Fine. So let me share this. Hang on a second. Okay. So it's let me share the screen with you. But this is something that if we could learn how to do this, here. Alrighty. It says, okay, Shema, try not to cry. Uziyat Tzadok. I think this is him. Okay, this is okay. This is not it. Hang on. This is a beautiful song as it is, but one second. There's one that you can see the Shema Yisrael's all over. This is it. Oh, this is it. Okay. I know. Is this it? Sorry, one second.
Get closer.
Alrighty, one second.
This still works.
Alrighty, Barbara Vance. Here we go. Okay. Is this? So this is the story. This is Bar Mitzvah boy.
It's gone. Everything's gone.
including Rabbi Epstein.
While we're waiting for him to come back, did you point out, Stuart, that it's very pertinent this week because the Shema is in Ves Nachan, which is this week's Torah portion?
Oh, here's Rabbi Epstein back. But
Yeah, back. Sorry. Sorry about that. I insulted my computer, so it bumped me off. All right, but so this is it to be nice even to your computer. So this is a song. So these aren't the words of Shema Yisrael, but it's the concept of Shema Yisrael. Okay, right? This is the concept of Shema Yisrael, right? Right? God, you are the King. Okay, so I'm going to share this with you. Okay, but this is also here, right? How far along in the video did you get bumped off?
not any of it, just the opening words that told his story, not any of his singing.
Okay, fine. So just okay.
סלח לי אבי, כי חטאתי לך, מחולי על כל פשעי. גם בימים ששכחתי אותך, היית תמיד בחיי. בכל הדרכים שלחתי בית, היית לי נר לרגליי. הייתי בר, לא ראיתי מעבר, למה שהביטו עיניי. מלך מלכם מלכים, תודה על חיים, עולו של ברי עצמות. גם כשקשה לפעמים, גם אז אלוקים, אתה לעולם לא רחוק. מלך מלכם מלכים, תודה על חיים, עולו של ברי עצמות. גם כשקשה לפעמים, גם אז אלוקים, אתה לעולם לא רחוק. בדרכי חשוכה, בטחתי בך אלוהיי. על חצי שני, על בכור וילדה, תודה גם על עושר בלי די. תודה על חגים, על שבת ששומר, שלא ייגמר לעולם. כל יום שעובר בדרכי לגן עדן, שתיתי אותך מול עיניי. מלך מלכי המלכים, תודה על חיים, עולו של ברי עצמות. גם כשקשה לפעמים, גם אז אלוקים, אתה לעולם לא רחוק. מלך מלכי המלכים, תודה על חיים, עולו של ברי עצמות. גם כשקשה לפעמים, גם אז אלוקים, אתה לעולם לא רחוק. מלך מלכי המלכים, תודה על חיים, עולו של ברי עצמות. גם כשקשה לפעמים, גם אז אלוקים, אתה לעולם לא רחוק. מלך מלכי המלכים, תודה על חיים, עולו של ברי עצמות. גם כשקשה לפעמים, גם אז אלוקים, אתה לעולם לא רחוק.
אז חברים, אני חושב שמגיע לו המון מחיאות כפיים לנתנאל.
Alrighty, that's this idea of the Shema, right? That you can imagine that the very powerful moment. But when we personally pray the Shema, right, we're supposed to try to sort of get our mind right, into that we're communicating with Hashem, right? And that prayer in general, but the Shema, the Shema is where really things get heated up, right? Like the davening is sort of, you have the warm up, and then you have the Shema, and then you have the Shemona Esrei, right? The silent devotion, and those, the Shema and the Shemona Esrei are the two, what I would call the two main parts of the service when we pray, right? And so being able to really to connect our heart and our mind, and to connect them to the words, and really feel this gratitude to God, and really feel this immense gratefulness and thankfulness, and understanding that God is really the one who's in charge, and we are we are here in this world at his invitation, right? So the Shema Yisrael is one, and the other one, I'll try to play. I couldn't download it on my computer. I'm gonna play it. Tell me if you can hear it or not, okay? Hold on. Okay, try this.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael,
Adonai
Yisrael,
Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Right, so that's another. You heard that? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's another tune also that some people use for Shema Yisrael, but those tunes are really something that I feel that touches the heart, or at least my heart, right? Right, and everyone, when it comes to song, everyone has to find the songs that elevate them in their personal prayer. And I was lucky when I'm growing up, the synagogue I used to pray in, they had excellent chazanim, right? And everyone knew the tunes. It was davening there was an incredible experience. But that's this idea of going ahead and of, right, when able to do that. But the word Shema Yisrael are really appropriate, right? They're very appropriate for when we do the Shema, right? That's actually what we're doing when we say the Shema, right? We're accepting upon ourselves God's sovereignty and God's rule and God's kingship over us. Okay, we're good.
Yes.
All right, good. So let's move on a little bit because this is the last class, and I want to try to see if we could finish at least the first paragraph. Because Judy, you gave me a rough job. You only gave me 2 weeks to talk about the Shema. But so it goes like this. So then we go ahead and then we have the next line. Now, when we say the Shema, we cover our eyes with our hand. Right, and normally when I lead the service in my learner service, is that before we say the Shema, I have everyone cover their eyes and just to think for a minute about accepting God's sovereignty, right, God's rule over me, right, and really, right. So we cover our eyes, we think about that for a minute before we say the Shema, right, just to go ahead and just to sort of get our minds focused, Stuart, as you said, about Kavanah. Right, to sort of to get our minds focused into being able to really, when we say Shema Yisrael, that we're really able to understand what we're doing when we do it. Right, so we cover our eyes, we think about that for a minute. Let's first go through the Shema, and then we'll try to say the Shema all together at the end. Right, we'll say it once we go through it. After you say Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad, right? Then we uncover our eyes. We say the next word, Baruch Shem Kavod Machuso Yolam Va'ed. Right? But we say that quietly. Okay. We say lower. Right? Is right. Blessed is the name of His glorious kingdom. Right? Forever and ever. Okay. Now the question is, why do we say it? Why do we say it in a low tone? Why do we say it in a low voice? Right. So does anyone know why we say it in a low voice?
I don't know necessarily why it's said in a low voice, other than on Yom Kippur it's said out loud.
Right. So on Yom Kippur it's said out loud because one of the things is that when we say Shema Yisrael, the angels in heaven say Baruch Shem Kavod Machusel B'Olam Va'ed. Blessed is God's name forever and ever. And the angels hate when we steal their prayers. So you say it in a low voice, right? To say Baruch Shem Kavod Machusel B'Olam Va'ed. Now on Yom Kippur, when we're fasting and we've accepted upon ourselves Yom Kippur, we now come to an elevated state, right? We now have gone ahead and gone to an elevated state. So at that point inside, we say Baruch Shem Kavod Machusel B'Olam Va'ed in a loud voice because then we're angelic, we're like angels. So therefore, we can say it in a loud voice. Good, but there's another reason. Does anyone know where the Shema appears in the Torah?
Ves Nachan.
This
week's Parsha.
This week's Torah portion, right? It says in chapter 6, verses 6 through 9. Did anyone ever look up in the Torah how the Shema appears in the Torah?
Separated from the rest of the text.
Right. But there's no Baruch Shem Kavod Machusel.
No. Right. Correct.
Okay? There's no, right? Why is there no Baruch? There's no Baruch. In the Torah, it doesn't have it. So why do we say it? So it goes like this. When Jacob, this goes back to the end of Genesis, Jacob was got all his sons together because he wanted to give them a blessing, right? He wanted to bless them. And he was going to tell them actually when the Messiah was going to come. He was going to reveal to them what was going to happen at the end of days. What happened was, right, so the divine presence was resting on Jacob, and all his sons come in. And when his sons come in, all of a sudden the divine presence leaves Jacob. And Jacob loses the ability to share with his children when the Messiah is going to come. But he didn't know whether that was because God didn't want him to reveal it, or maybe one of his sons wasn't righteous, and therefore when they came in, God's presence left, because God's presence can't be around people that aren't righteous. Okay? So what happened? So all his children said as follows. All his children went and said, Shema Yisrael. Right? Shema Yisrael, listen, O Israel. Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, God is one. And here Israel is referring to Jacob, right? Shema Yisrael, listen, Israel. God is one, right? We're with God, right? We're not heretics, right? We're godly people. And what does Jacob respond when they say that?
Baruch Shem Kavod.
Baruch Shem Kavod Machusali Alam Va'ed. Right. Blessed is the name of his glorious kingdom for all eternity. He goes, thank God, they're all righteous. And what happens when he says, thank God, they're all righteous? Right? And so he said, thank God, and he goes on and gives them the blessings. So now, when they instituted the Shema in the davening, they had a challenge. What was the challenge?
Moses,
the Torah, it's
Moshe didn't say it.
But here Jacob did say it. So are we going to say it or are we not going to say it?
It's a compromise.
So it's a compromise. So we say it, but we say it in a lower voice, right? And that's why Baruch Shem Kavod Machusal V'Alaved is said in a lower voice. Okay, that's right. That's why, right, Stuart? Right, that's why it's said in a lower voice and not said out loud like everything else. Okay. Now we turn the page. Okay, I don't know, whatever. Do you all have a art scroll sitter? Okay, maybe. Okay, so it goes like this. So in the Shema, so what's the next line in the Shema? Hashem Elokecha, and you shall love Hashem your God, b'chol levavecha. Right, which literally means you should love Hashem your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your resources. Okay? So now, what does that mean? How do you love Hashem with all? Now, heart is written in plural. It's hearts with an S at the end. So what does it mean to love Hashem your God with all your hearts?
I think it's referring to the community.
Yeah, but it says your hearts.
All your emotions.
Your is plural.
Right, but it's plural, so it should be singular. So the Talmud says you should love Hashem with all your hearts, means with all your desires, both the good inclination and the evil inclination. Okay? Means you should use, right, your good inclination and your evil inclination to help serve God. Okay, right? That you use, right, everything in our power, right? The Yetzer HaTov, the good inclination, the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, but we use them both to serve God. Ubechol nafshecha, in all your soul. What does it mean, all your soul? So the Talmud says, even if they come to take away your soul and they're going to kill you for your belief in God, we have to be ready to give up your life. What?
Kedush Hashem, sanctification of God's
name. Right? And it's interesting. Right? Rabbi Akiva, when he was dying, right? When he was being killed. Right? So his student said to him, he says, Rabbi, why are you so happy? He said, well, because in the Shema, I said every day, you have to love Hashem even if they take your soul, even if they kill you for it. He said, and I didn't know if I would be able to withstand that challenge. I didn't know whether I would be able to go ahead and to love Hashem even when they're killing me. Right? So therefore, he says, now that it's happening, he says, I'm happy that I'm able to do what I've been saying my entire life. Then it says, so that's v'chol nafshecha, and then it says v'chol me'odecha, with all your resources. What does it mean with all your resources?
Even if you have to give up all your wealth, whatever it costs.
Okay, so it's interesting, right? You should know, by the way, right? How much money do you have to spend on a mitzvah? Right? You know, there's a prescribed amount on how much money you have to spend on a mitzvah. Right? And there's a difference between a positive commandment or a negative commandment. A negative commandment, you have to give up all your money, right? Not to transgress it. A positive one, you only have to spend X amount of dollars. Right? I think that's 30 your wealth. But Ma'odecha doesn't just only mean your money. It means your resources. Right? You're supposed to serve Hashem with all your resources. What resources do we have?
Your intellect.
Your intellect, your pull, all your resources that you have, that God has given you. We have to learn to serve Hashem with all those things, right? With our brains, with our, right, whatever we do. Yes, Judy.
Would that include time, our time?
Sure, absolutely. Time is probably our most precious gift,
Mm-hmm.
right? Right, because we only have X amount of time in this world, right? And every second that we have, right, it will never come back. Right? You ever heard the expression "killing time"?
Yes.
You know, in Judaism, we don't call it killing time. You know what we call it?
Wasting it?
We call it murdering time. Because this second that you'll have, you'll never get back. You might get it another second, maybe maybe not, right? But we murder time. We don't kill time, right? Every second that is life is precious, and we're able to go ahead and we're able to use it to gain eternity. Right, so it's learning how to live life, right, with counting the seconds, right? They say the Vilna Gaon on Yom Kippur would cry bitter tears because he kept a notebook of all the time that he wasted in a year, and he wasted 1.5 minutes in a year.
Yeah, most of us do that in an hour.
Most of us do that in 2 minutes, you know, or like in 1 minute and 35 seconds, we waste 1.5 minutes of it.
He was also called the genius.
Right. But he was somebody who understood the value of a second, right? Because he would never get it back, but he would never get he would never get the second back, right? And it's therefore, right? So therefore, it was he would, and then comes Yom Kippur, he would go ahead and he would be broken, right? He'd be broken because he lost 1.5 minutes of eternity, right? And when you appreciate eternity, 1.5 minutes of eternity is a long time, right? The best line I ever heard for eternity. It's funny. I read this probably 40 some odd years ago. I remember as a kid, we used to get the Reader's Digest. They used to have like these quotable quotes.
I remember.
You remember that? And what happened was that it said a second of eternity. He says, imagine a tall mountain, and imagine a little bird coming once a day to sharpen its beak on the mountain. He says, when the mountain is gone, that's a drop of time in eternity.
Oh my goodness.
Right, so that's a long time, right? It's that's a very, very long time. Right?
Rabbi, if
Yeah.
I may, I've read somewhere 1/10 of infinity is still infinity.
Right. No matter what it is.
No matter how you particle it out.
Right.
Still infinity.
Right. And that's really it's a long time. Right? But he would cry for his 84 seconds he might have wasted in a year. Right? You know, like that, but that's when you get to his level already. Right? But that means you should love Hashem your God with all your hearts, right? Your good inclination, evil inclination, with your whole body, even if you end up that you have to give up your life for it, with all your resources. Right? I mean, again, time, money, looks, right? Whatever it is, whatever we have to all use it to serve God, right? We have to go ahead and we have to figure out, why does God give me these gifts, and what am I going to do with these gifts in order to serve God, right? That becomes really what we need to do. Okay, and we need to learn how to go ahead. How to use all the gifts that God gives us. We have to use them to serve. And then we say as follows. We continue the next verse. V'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh. Right? And it should be these words or these things, Asher anointi mitzavacha hayom, which I am commanding you today, al livavecha. You shall put them on your heart. What does it mean to put them on your heart?
Engrave them within your heart so they become as one.
So, but does it say you should put them in your heart or on your heart?
On your heart, I believe.
Right, but what should it say?
Well, if I'm getting your intonation properly, it would be in your heart.
Correct. And so, really, the way you understood it is right, would be the simplistic way that I would read it. Right, to put them, engrave them, right, on your heart means right on your heart, right? But right, this question is an interesting question because it really seems to be, right, that you should put them, right, you should put them, right, it should say bilavavecha, inside your heart, not on your heart. What does it mean when it says you should put it on your heart?
Keep it in the forefront and maintain it in your consciousness.
Right, or sometimes, good, but sometimes we come to a commandment and we're not up to doing it. Right? But we come to something and we're not ready to do it. So what do we say in the Shema? Take it, put it on your heart. Because sometime you'll be inspired and there'll be a crack on your heart, and as soon as your heart opens up, it'll fall in. Right? Understand? Right? It goes ahead, it means, right, it'll go ahead, it will just kind of just flop in. Right? So it says, so you can put it on your heart. Right? Okay, now, here comes the next word. Here comes the next verse, very important. Okay? There comes the next word. It goes like this. Vishinantam livanecha. And you should teach them to your children. Vidibartabam, and speak with them. Vishivtecha beveisecha, when you rest in your house, uvelechtecha baderech, when you go on the way, uvishachbecha, and when you lie down, uvkumecha, and when you get up. Right? And the idea is, right, make sure that you're always encompassed, that you're always involved in doing these commandments. Right? And here it's very important, Vishinantam livanecha, right? That you should teach them to your children. And the word Vishinantam means that they should become fluid. Right? And this is very, very important. Probably our most important job in this world is to teach our children, right? To teach our children about Torah, to inspire them to study Torah and to learn Torah and to live Torah. Right? This is right. This is a very, very important, very, very important piece. You know, when the Jews from Europe came to America, you know, the American kids are different than the European kids. And we lost an entire generation of Jewish kids because we didn't know how to teach them. Right? You didn't teach, right, the American kid. Right in Europe, in the shtetls, they taught it to you, you didn't want it, they smacked you and you got back in line. Right? It was just what we do. The American kid would ask why. Right? And they wouldn't get, and they weren't equipped to give the kids the answer. So instead of giving them the answer, they would smack them or whatever it was. And it led to a tremendous tragedy that we lost a generation, and not only lose that generation, all of their generations, we lost them as well. Right? Because of this commandment to teach our children is probably, as a community, it's probably the most important commandment in the entire world. Right? Teach our children. Means because, you know, we have to teach, you know, ever heard the line, we have to teach our children our values before somebody else teaches our children their values. Right? Vishinantam levanecha. Right? Teach it to your children. And what does the Torah say? V'dibartabam, and speak with them. V'shivtecha b'veisecha, when you dwell in your house, v'lechtecha baderech, when you go on the way, v'shachbecha, when you lie down, v'kumecha. Men should be all-consuming, always be looking to teach Torah. And teaching Torah doesn't necessarily mean all the time showing them in the book. It means leading them by example, to show them how a Torah Jew, right, a godly person lives their life, right? And right, our job is to go ahead and to make sure that we are living, right, a godly life. Right, that we're going ahead and at all times understand make sure we pass it along to our children. Right? Make sure that we inspire, make sure that we are inspired, that they realize how amazing it is. Right? Because if we go ahead and we can teach them how, if they see us being excited about Judaism, they see us being excited, that's what they would do. You should bind them for a sign upon your hand. It should be, right, the totafos, right, the between your eyes. Right, the word totafos actually is a word that literally sort of means four, right? Because the tefillin on the head is actually 4 compartments. The tefillin on the arm is 1 compartment. That's why it's totafos beinei necha. Right, then I'll tell you something real good. Anyone know where you wear your tefillin?
What was the question?
Where do you wear your tefillin? Show me.
Well, I wear it on my right arm because I'm left-handed.
But you put it up here on your head. You don't put it way down on your
Right,
forehead.
but it says it should be totafos, it should be tefillin between your eyes. So literally, what does that mean? You would think between your eyes, tefillin between your eyes, we should put that tefillin right over here, right between our eyes. Yet the Talmud said, no, that's not what it means. It means put it on your forehead,
Yes.
between your eyes, right? On your forehead, in between your eyes. It can't go past your front hairline or where your hairline used to be, and it can't go further back, like on the top of your head, where the baby, where your head used to be soft, right? So between there and the front is where you put your tefillin. So they ask a very simple question. So then why does it say you should put it between your eyes?
Because of the third eye.
So the answer is like this. Well, not the third eye, the third and fourth eye. Every person, you should know, we have 2 spiritual eyes on top of our head. Why are spiritual eyes on top of our head?
Because they're always facing God.
Because they're always looking up at God. Right? So it says you should put them between your eyes. That's what it literally means. Put them between our eyes, right? Put them right here, that we should always be focused on looking at God, right? It doesn't mean over here, right? We get lost in our physical world. We think it's over here.
Rabbi,
Yeah,
I have a question, if I may ask.
sure.
Tefillin shel rosh, the shin is 4 branched on one side, 3 branched on the other. I never.
Yeah, right.
Could you explain that?
The shin usually has 3. Okay, the normal way to write a shin is 3. Here it's 4. I think one of the ideas is because there are 4 parshiot, there are 4 sections written in there,
Okay.
right? Okay, and by the way, the script of the tefillin, the 4 parshios are the same on your head as on your hand. Which 4 portions are put into our tefillin?
The Shema.
So you should know the Shema, first paragraph on the second Shema. So the answer is like, this is pretty cool. There are 4 paragraphs in the Torah that mention tefillin. Only 4 in the entire Torah. So those 4 portions are put into our tefillin. Right? The 4 that deal with the tefillin. Okay, so and then it says, and write them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. Right, means that the tefillin always have to be, right, that you should write the Shema on the doorposts of our house. Why are they supposed to be in the doorposts of our house?
So you're reminded of God when you leave your home and when you enter your home.
Okay, so first of all, you should know it says on the mezuzos beisecha, on the doorposts in plural. Which doorposts do we have to put them on?
All of them.
All
Except
our doorposts.
the bathroom.
Except the bathroom, right? And why? Because when we put the mezuzah on the door, what we're doing is we're going ahead and we put them on the door. We're saying is that remember that, right? It's interesting that we pray to God, please safeguard me when I go outside, man. And remember is to always keep our minds focused on God. So that's why we put the mezuzahs right in all the doorposts in our house. Okay, right. So now let's just read through. I'll just read through in English the whole thing. Right, God, trustworthy King. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God. Adonai, the one and only. Blessed is the name of His glorious kingdom for all eternity. You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your resources. Let these matters that I command you today to be upon your heart. Teach them thoroughly to your children and speak to them while you sit in your home, while you walk in the way, when you retire, and when you arise. Bind them as a sign upon your arm, and let them be tefillin between your eyes. And write them on the doorposts of your house and upon your gates. Right? And this is the first paragraph of the Shema. The Shema is actually made up of 3 paragraphs. Right? Right? It's again Deuteronomy chapter 11, verses 13 through 21. And then the third section is written in Numbers chapter 15, verses 37 through 41. Okay, does anyone have any questions?
I do, Rabbi.
Yeah.
Yes. As long as I've ever heard it, the Shema has always been known as a prayer. Yet the format of the word Shema is more of a command, an imperative, a directive. What is the reason why it's known as a prayer rather than a most soulful spiritual statement?
When I would translate prayer as soulful expression, exactly what you said. Let me ask you a question. When you hear prayer, what does it bring to mind?
Hopefully an honest dialect between yourself and God.
Okay, good. But I would,
Yeah.
but I would say, is it only a dialogue? Is it a dialogue? Is it a dialogue from here or a dialogue from here?
I think both.
Both, right? So
I think the one's got to talk to the other, communicate to get
Right.
the message to God as
you
best
know
you
what they
can.
say? What is the furthest distance in the world?
God.
It's from your heart to your head.
Hopefully not.
Right, but it's
No.
from your heart to your head. Right, this is the
Yeah.
longest distance in the world. So prayer is hopefully meant as a way to truly connect my heart and my head. Right, in a soulful, right, in a soulful, in a soulful, deeply meaningful connection and way with God. That's really what prayer
Thanks.
is.
Yeah.
Right? You
Thanks
know,
for the understanding. I always thought it was a misnomer.
There's
Using
an
the word prayer was
There's
Shema.
there's an article that was written by Rabbi Sachs, and what he says in part of it is that technically reciting the Shema is not an act of prayer at all. It's fundamentally a different type of action. It's an act of Talmud Torah, of learning Torah, and he cites Menachot 99b. In prayer we speak to God, in study we listen to God. And really, if you think about what the Shema is, it's commandments. It's really God telling us what to do more than us asking for something or praying for something.
If I may, I think Bob is thinking of the traditional prayer that begins Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam, which is the format for most prayers. And this
Very much so.
outside of that. So in his mind, he's trying to reconcile that.
well, let me ask you a question.
Thank you.
What does the word Baruch Atah Hashem mean?
It means blessed is God, but why is God asking us to? Why are
you giving God a
Why are we
blessing?
giving God a blessing? Is the question.
Right? Why are you giving God a blessing when you eat His fruits? Let's say he's about to bite into his apple. You say, "Oh God, blessed are you." What does that mean?
Recognizing.
Very good. What do we
The
recognize?
majesty and holiness.
So let me tell you.
We're also recognizing the fact that without God we wouldn't have it.
Right. So let me explain to you something amazing. Okay, it's when you say the word Baruch, okay, right, they translate it as blessed, right? Do you know what the root of the Hebrew word Baruch is?
Barah. Isn't it?
No, because it's not. It's Beis Reish Chaf. It's not Beis Reish Aleph.
Oh.
Bara.
You ever heard of a Bereicha? A Bereicha is a pool of water. Not just any pool, it's a spring. What's the difference between a spring and a stream or a river?
Pool, Spring comes from the earth.
Spring is the
And
source.
self-sustaining.
Right, the spring is the source of the water. So when we say Baruch Ata Hashem, we're saying you, God, are the source of everything. Right?
And I must say, as much as it is a command, I will always view it as feel it as a prayer as
Which
well.
one? Which word?
The Shema Yisrael.
Yeah. No, 100%. I
Yeah.
think it's exactly what it is. Right? And when you say Baruch Ata Hashem, I would finish up Baruch, I'll come back to the Shema. Baruch Ata Hashem means God, you are the source. Right? You are the wells, you are the source of everything. Eloheinu. Right? You are, right? Eloheinu, you are our God. Melech HaOlam, you're the king of the universe. Right? Can you imagine, do you understand those beautiful words you're saying when you say a Baruch? When you say a blessing? God, you are the source of everything. You are our God, king of the universe. Right? And then the creator of the fruit of the tree. Right? You understand what you're saying when you make a blessing? Those words are so sweet. Right? You're going ahead and you're recognizing God as the creator of everything. And I like to point out, by the way, when you get ready to bite into, let's call it the apple, it's just an easy fruit. How many people have touched that apple before it comes? How many people had a hand in that apple coming to your table?
Thousands. Thousands.
Right? The answer is it's millions. No, I'll show you why. I'll show you why. It's very simple. Let's say that the fruit came from Washington, right? Washington is known for their apples.
New York State too?
New York State, right, New York State. So the trees are planted. So somebody had to plant the tree, right?
Yeah.
Now somebody had to water that little seedling, right? So where did the water come from? The water came from 50 miles away from the reservoir. Now, how did the water get to your place? Well, somebody
Either by pipe or by truck.
By pipes, usually by pipes, right? We have a water infrastructure. Who made the pipes? How
Some
many
metal
people made the
workers.
pipe? How many people then? How did the pipes get transported from where they're made to where they were put in the ground?
By truck.
Truck. Okay. Do you know the average 18-wheeler has 300,000 parts? How many people made those parts? And those parts, a bunch of those came from China. Right? Along with other stuff.
Unfortunately.
Right? So now you have boats. Who made the boats? How many parts are there in boats? How many people are on there? Let me ask you a question. The people that were on there were wearing clothing. Where were their clothing made? Back in China. Right? Where did the raw products come from? They came from Australia by boat. And how did they make it in Australia? My friend, you should know, every time you look at an apple, you should understand the kindness of God that he did to get this apple to your doorstep. Right? If you actually stop and ever think about those things, you will live your life in a state of just incredible recognition of everything that God does. It's incredible. If you actually ever stop and think about it, it should blow our minds. Right? It's something, it's so incredible. Yeah.
So I have to think about how many people were involved in helping to bring you to our meeting today.
God works in mysterious ways, right? He works, right? Yeah, you sent me an email, right? So who created the internet and who created the computers and how many people using the computers and the technology that exists that I can talk to you, all of you, right? We're all in our separate homes or separate places. I mean, if you could imagine, right, that we could still study Torah even at these times. Truly something incredible.
Yes.
So we're over time. I know if you have to leave, feel free to leave. But maybe before we leave, so maybe let's just do the Shema, okay? Let's do the Shema in let's pray the Shema. Okay, we could always pray the Shema. Okay, Robert, we're gonna pray it hopefully in its proper way. Okay, so I'll lead you through it, and we'll use the tune of the Shema Yisrael. Now, one thing when you pray, you have to be careful, right? That you don't. If there's a verse, you don't want to break up the verse and repeat the verse. You know what I'm saying? You want to sort of go. So if you notice when we sang the song, we just kept singing the whole verse again and again, right? Let's have him go Shema Yisrael, Shema Yisrael. Right? But wait a second, you're not saying the whole verse, right? So it's actually just to go ahead and just to read it through. Okay, you all want to try that? Give it a go. Okay, good. So now we're going to start, before we start the Shema, everyone cover your eyes, and I want you to think for a minute, accepting upon ourselves the yoke of heaven, okay, the mantle of heaven. Right? That God is our King, and that we are here to serve him, and we are here to serve God. And that we are his ambassadors in this world. Okay, now, El Melech Ne'eman.
Shema Yisrael, Shema Yisrael, Eloheinu, Adonai Shema Yisrael, Adonai Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Shema Yisrael,
Baruch Shem Kivod Malchut V'yahavta
Hayu harvarim haelech asher anochi etzavecha al yom levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibartam bam v'shittecha v'veitzelecha v'velecha b'derech v'shafcha u'chamecha kol tayotecha hayu l'tatacha b'leinecha v'amam
You shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your resources. Let the matters that I command you today be upon your heart. Teach them thoroughly to your children and speak to them while you sit in your home, while you walk on the way, when you retire and when you arise. Bind them as a sign upon your arm, and let them be tefillin between your eyes, and write them at the doorposts of your house and upon your gates. Okay, folks, I think we ran over a few minutes. I apologize.
Apologize.
All right. Does anyone have any questions before we sign off?
Yeah, Rabbi. On what I've learned from today and with the Shema that you're talking about, you were talking about listening and hearing. And what I've learned, it's not, the Shema is not complete. It's like until you execute the instruction that has been given. Because it's like you can, I can say something to my son, yeah, I'm hearing, but until he gets it done, it's not complete. You know, yeah, with it on the Shema. And also the one thing too that you were saying, I think about Jacob and that, and also how a card is with the Jews. It is something that I always believe that, yes, the Jews have the power to change the world.
Correct.
Because God, you know, after all this separation and, you know, with different religions, God chose, you know, the Jews, and then he he gave the instructions, the way he wants to be served, the commandments, that which if we all follow, it will be a blessing for us on this earth.
Correct.
So until the whole world understands that, we will still go through all the chaos that is going on.
You know, all the chaos in the world is really there so that we're going to, when Mashiach comes and the Messiah comes, say, thank God. And God doesn't want anybody complaining. You know, thank God he's here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ready.
Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. All right, take care, guys. Thank you.